From the heart of Central Florida, you're listening to the most electrifying show in media. A Neighbor's Choice. I'm your host, your neighbor, David Gronowski. Welcome back to the program where we're having a great time unpacking the news and headlines with a perspective that's a big picture perspective. I want to give you anthropology, ethical frameworks, things that can help you and your family navigate these unique times like nobody else does, because we're guided by the personhood revolution of Jesus inaugurated over 2,000 years ago, and we have that secret weapon in our back pocket, so to speak, that allows us to make sense of the headlines like nobody else is doing in popular broadcast media today, because there's a lot of other things that people can focus on. There's a lot of other things that are like shiny new toys. They say, well, yeah, I'm Christian, but I'm Thomist. I'm a Aristotelian. I'm a Platonist. I'm a this. I'm a that. I'm a conservative. I'm a this kind of conservative, that kind of liberal, this kind of Marxist, that kind of Marxist. It's all this stuff. They can't just be a Christian, right? On my program, I want to pursue with you an understanding and a conversation about what it means to imitate Jesus in light of his impact in history today. And, you know, the title of this program is called Thou Shalt Not Kill. Have you heard that before? There's Zachary Tyson Brown is a veteran who was working in the office of the Secretary of Defense. This is according to Revolver.news. As recently as last month, took to LinkedIn to seemingly subtly hint that he wants Alex Jones to be given the Anwar al-Awlaki treatment. In other words, he is flirting with the idea that Alex Jones deserves to be assassinated by the U.S. government. Tyson Brown shared this seemingly malicious threat, the article says, with the entire world, but he couched it in just the right way to maintain plausible deniability. And it's he quotes Alex Jones saying quotes the article saying Alex Jones told listeners last week that his predictions of a war against the New World Order was coming true, and that his listeners should try to overcome their fear of death and be ready to kill as many of them as quickly as possible. And Tyson Brown, the Department of the Secretary of Defense office, says we killed Anwar al-Awlaki for stuff like this. So they're always trying to have this political thing cheapen human life. I just heard before we started this segment that they're talking about they still haven't had justice for Breonna Taylor, a woman who was killed in a no-knock raid by police in Kentucky. And, you know, I think we need to get to the bottom of that. There needs to be justice for Breonna Taylor. Thou shalt not kill is a real thing. And you cannot base thou shalt not kill on some kind of appeal to humanity, because humanity comes in different perspectives. And some people are nihilists, and some people are psychopathic killers, and some people, it has to be something beyond humanity. Something that we can all kind of aspire to. It has to be some transcendent beyond just the brotherhood of man, which is just a cheap microwave version of Christianity at the end of the day. I saw a story, an image of a guy named Ryan Whitaker. It says, on May 21st, 2020, after I got home from celebrating my daughter's graduation, I was playing a video game with my girlfriend, and when there was banging on my door, I opened my front door with my gun in hand for protection and was ambushed by police. I was shot in the back twice and killed by Phoenix police officer Jeff Cook as I was kneeling on the ground and I had my hands in the air. I had committed no crime and was an innocent man. No officers had been fired or charged. And the meme says, say my name, Ryan Whitaker. Just like Breonna Taylor meme saying, say her name. Don't let her be erased. This is something that comes from a Christian concern for our neighbors. You don't get this with Karl Marx. You don't get this with Keynes. You don't get this with the fascists or anything else where you're concerned about every human life. And the thing that I'm concerned about is the way the media wants to take real concern for justice and make it all about race or gender or political ideology. So if someone dies and they're a black police officer trying to stop looters, that does not get media attention because it's a person who's a police officer. In this context, in this story, the police are villains because they stand in the way of this Marxist looting fervor that's being built up. Or in the case of, Ryan Whitaker there, someone who was killed on May 21st of this year by police for no reason. They didn't do anything. And killed. No crime was committed. No officers have been fired or charged. But it doesn't get as much attention because it doesn't serve the corporatist media's narrative of trying to divide ordinary powerless people against each other through race. See, that's what's so shameful about these stories, is that they get co-opted by people who, instead of wanting to unite us around the protection of the human person against killing, says, you know what, we could get more political power out of this if we use these killings as bludgeons to divide powerless neighbor against powerless neighbor. Instead of us uniting against bad laws, they want us to fight over villainizing and scapegoating police or scapegoating political parties or scapegoating race, scapegoating gender, anything but just indicting human brokenness itself, human sin, human proclivity to do terrible things like kill people. You see, never is that allowed to be at the focus by the lying old media. The media always wants to stoke up, whether it's left or right, they want to stoke one story or the other. Oh, it's this team is only good and the other team is only bad. Or the other one says, no, that team is only evil, we're the only good one. And everything is filtered through that. It's not real. It's a fantasy. That's not how life works. All life is sacred or it's not. Thou shalt not kill. So what's it going to be? Are we going to live our life in our society with this toxic groupthink of the media that wants to make everything about dividing people rather than uniting people? If we come together around the notion that all life is sacred and that thou shalt not kill, if we actually live that principle and we actually examine events of our world, like the killing of Breonna Taylor in the no-knock raid, like the killing of Ryan Whitaker, whoever it is, whether you're a black person or a white person or a brown person or anything, that it's a crime to not take that seriously, to not do things to stop those things from happening, that you shouldn't have to have no-knock raids, that you can actually have great detective work and solve real crimes and do it better without destroying people's right to their house, their property, the right to not be murdered for a mistake, that there should be more safeguards to protect the human person from the collective, and that there shouldn't be things like qualified immunity that just allows that kind of sloppiness that creates such terrible outcomes to just happen without serious consequences. But you lose sight of that if you listen to this narrative from the framework of the TV media. They're not going to tell you that life is sacred. They're going to say, well, this life matters in contrast to this life's evil, or this group is evil, that group is the villain, this one's the victim. They always want to pit each other against ourselves. They want to pit us against each other, not unite us in peace, not unite us against peaceful, elimination of bad laws and bad practices and bad regulations, bad union control, which makes us have a hard time trusting the system. We'll be back in just a moment, live on A Neighbor's Choice.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It's a stressful process. There are attorneys in Tampa Bay that keep clients well informed, creating less stress. That law firm is Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims don't realize they have a claim for their loss until they talk to Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to Catania.com. Over 28 years. Catania, personal injury, auto, and motorcycle accident attorneys. Catania, putting families first.
Office Tampa. Not attorney spokeswoman.
Not ready to go to your favorite seafood restaurant? Get the highest quality fish for less, delivered straight to your door by Fast Fresh Seafood. Order our fresh hot snapper, grouper, mahi, and more. They're boneless, skinless, flash frozen the same day, and individually vacuum wrapped. Pick the size filet you want, the amount you want, and checkout's easy at fastfreshseafood.com. The best thing, every fish is on sale. Fastfreshseafood.com. Caught fresh for you, delivered straight to you. Stay home and stay safe.
Here's one thing you can scratch off your to-do list without going anywhere, without any out-of-pocket cost to you, and even get up to $150 cash back. Get that crack in your windshield fixed by calling Auto Glass America. They'll come to you, and with comprehensive insurance coverage, there's no cost to you. Call Auto Glass America now and fix that pain in the glass with premium glass and a lifetime warranty. Call 813-96-GLASS, 813-96-GLASS. Auto Glass America.
How would you like to be a part of the Guinness Book of World Records? Here's a unique opportunity for you if you own boat. Conservative Grounds Coffee Shop in Largo will be hosting the world record for the largest boat parade on August 15th. This record-breaking event will be coming to the Pinellas Intercoastal Waterways in beautiful Clearwater. This parade will be held in honor of the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and all the accomplishments from his administration. More than 1,200 supporters are expected, and that's a number to exceed the current Guinness World Record. If you support the Trump administration, bring your vessel and come out and join in for this once-in-a-lifetime event and be a part of a world record. All profits go to charity or conservative political campaigns in the area.
To register for this once-in-a-lifetime event and be a part of the Guinness Book of World Records, visit HugeBoatParade.com. That's HugeBoatParade.com.
A Neighbor's Choice returns. I'm David Gronowski, your host. We're talking about thou shalt not kill. And the way the media wants to cover these stories of police encounters gone wrong, they want to keep it all based on narratives that can divide people rather than unite people. They want to get it on things about politics, political identification, your job, your race, your gender, but they never want to talk about the human heart. Because if they talked about the human heart, their little game of trying to catechize us to worship the state would fall apart. Because when you recognize that evil belongs to the individual in terms of our ability to succumb to it, and that we cannot quarantine evil based on skin tone or privilege or wealth or any of these things that the media wants to divide us about. Once you recognize that the human heart is what's on trial here, and once you recognize that the only way to stop the killing and stop the brutality that we see is to respect the human person above the collective. If you respect the human person above the collective, then you're not going to fixate about indicting different races whenever there's a death. You're going to indict the law, whether it's no-knock raids, qualified immunity, a law that imprisons people for a cigarette, stuff like that, nonviolent, victimless, bad laws. If you're focused on saving human persons and actually saving human life, then you focus on going after that which created the condition for people who shouldn't be killed to be killed. If you're focusing on things that will keep power entrenched, things like fighting about race, fighting about gender, nothing will ever change. As I like to point out a lot, Eric Garner, who died saying, "I can't breathe," in New York, was selling unlicensed cigarettes. How many millions of dollars have been raised, billions potentially, by corporations and groups off of Eric Garner's likeness and his saying? And have they done anything to dismantle the license for cigarette selling in New York? That tells you everything you need to know about the politically correct leftist ideology. How many millions of dollars? Think about it. How much money does it cost to raise lobbying efforts to abolish the law that got Eric Garner killed, which is he was selling loosies. He was selling unlicensed cigarettes in the state of New York. That's the law that sent men with the immunity to use force to come into contact with Eric Garner. The people of the state of New York, liberal and enlightened as they are, said, put that law on the books and enforce it. Someone goes and enforces it. It goes wrong. The man dies. And what do the people of the state of New York and the people of the state of the United States of America do? They say, we need to raise a lot of money. We need to make T-shirts that say "I can't breathe." We need to do all this stuff. Did anybody raise their hand and say, get rid of that law so not another single person has to die from a nonviolent thing like selling a cigarette? Did anybody do that? No, that's how you know they're full of it. That's how you know that they don't know what they're doing, that they're charlatans or useful idiots at best. I mean, what else explains it, huh? These people who talk a big game about social justice can't get rid of one state law that caused a man to come into harm's way, can't get rid of one law in a liberal state. Oh, they're so self-righteous in their condemnation of their neighbor, but they can't get rid of one law. How many millions of dollars? Look at how much money the NBA could put into it. They put Black Lives Matter on their court. Can they get rid of that law? In one state. We're just talking one state. How much does it cost to lobby to get rid of that law? Bunch of cowards is what they are. Bunch of little cowards, man. Lecturing the public about how life matters, but they can't spend a dime to get rid of that law? How much money have they spent on getting rid of that law that killed Eric Garner? Instead, they use it as an occasion to talk about how self-righteous they are. Look at me. What a bunch of hypocrites. Those are Pharisees. State-worshiping Pharisees. I got no time for those folks. And their stupid little empty slogans mean nothing to the flesh and blood of real human beings of every race, every political background, every income level, every religion getting mowed down by an out-of-control, lawless big government. I got no time for these little fake, empty, emotional sayings and slogans raised off of the backs of people who have died, and those people can't even get rid of that law. So excuse me if I don't want to use their little corporate Mick Woke slogans. I'll stick to the one who split time, Jesus Christ, as my guide, not some stupid neo-Marxist garbage telling me we got to get rid of the Western nuclear family. Not going to happen in my conversation. That's not on the table in my conversation. Trying to make an open season on young people. If they get rid of the nuclear family, you're going to have a lot more people dying unnecessarily because of the chaos that you're going to sow. Who in the world would put that slogan knowing that? BlackLivesMatter.com says we want to dismantle the Western nuclear family. Who would put a dime in that pocket, knowing that the Western nuclear family is the last vestige of civilization that the state is trying to grind into a pulp? Without a nuclear family, what does a young man have or a young woman have to protect them from the chaos of this world? That is an organization that if they're serious about dismantling the Western nuclear family, then they are at war against black lives and all lives for that matter. But the fools in our TV stinking media are so full of themselves, like Pharisees, that they're staring at the mirror saying, look how righteous I am. Look how righteous I am. That's all they do all day. Look how righteous I am. While nothing changes. Nothing changes. Those guys raise all that money. George Soros, all these billionaires, Jeff Bezos's ex-wife, all the money, these people put writing checks, and they can't get rid of one state law called making a license for cigarettes. Do you really think they care? Think about it. Do you think they're that dumb? You know what I mean? Think about this for a moment. Are they that dumb? You think they really mean well? They really want to stop unjust killing of people like Eric Garner. But they're that dumb that they can't figure out that if you get rid of that law, that situation won't occur again? Is that how dumb they are? Or is it that they don't really care? At the end of the day, these big corporate organizations just care about self-righteous posturing. And so much of the media cares about using these narratives to divide us, to get us to hate each other, rather than uniting in liberty. We could achieve so much if we could get beyond the politics of things and recognize that thou shalt not kill is not a suggestion. It's not a recommendation. It is a law of the universe. And it wasn't made by man. Thou shalt not kill was made by our Creator. And our Creator doesn't see things about gender and race and political party. He sees things for what we should see things as. That every life is sacred. That our neighbor is endowed with immeasurable worth, even if he doesn't act like it, even if she doesn't act like it, that their being a human being gives them a protection from having their life taken, that we should always hold sacred and fight for every person. That's a message that's so refreshing and breathtaking. It's amazing that you never hear it anymore.
What time of year it is.
Hurricane conditions in the next 36 hours.
You know what hurricanes can do.
Devastating damage expected.
Well, we want you to know, no matter how bad things get.
Power outages. This is life-threatening.
You can stay up to date with the latest information here. Your home for news, talk, and information. And remember, we'll keep an eye on the tropics. You keep an ear on us.
Yeah, batteries in the flashlight.
The all-new News Talk 1040 WHBO.
Radio.
The Democrats are taking President Trump to task over his executive actions to prop up a coronavirus-battered economy. They say it's too little too late. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says they had their chance to compromise with the GOP on the proposal.
Democrats are demanding that we send state and local governments a colossal amount of money with no relationship to actual need, while they've only spent a quarter, 25%, of the money they've already gotten.
President Trump is expected to weigh in on his actions at his news briefing, which will begin at any time now. Rescue is still on the scene after an explosion in Baltimore that left at least one person dead. 3 row houses were leveled. Paul Cardin is with the American Red Cross.
Tomorrow we begin working one-on-one with the families whose homes have been destroyed, who have injured family members, who have lost a loved one in the explosion.
5 people were hospitalized. The Dow closed up 358 points, NASDAQ down 43. Daria Albany.
Hello, David Granosky here. You're listening to A Neighbor's Choice. Listening to the news from a personhood standpoint, not collectivism. That means we're not going to cheapen human life for our own political power lust. Meanwhile, D.C., they're fighting over blaming each other as they fight over, should we have $60 trillion or $50 trillion? It's just absolute meaningless nonsense. If you're watching this stuff and you see people saying, hey, it needs to be $10 trillion, how about $60 trillion? How about $70 trillion that we print out of thin air and tax? All so that they, like renters of power, look like little gods as they burn the whole house down of our country. It is shameful. It's disgraceful. And every party, both parties are in the same boat here. They're both lying, telling you that the way you build wealth is by printing money out of thin air, because they know that our government is run by these little rituals that we do every 4 years or so, these elections. And these elections don't really change too much of the structural bureaucracies that are entrenched in our government, but they kind of have a ceremonial narrative change that, even though that's rather superficial in terms of real change of the spending levels and bureaucratic power over our lives that this government has, it still is enough of a threat to the status quo that they spend a lot of time making that a big deal. And so they know that they can use these crises to give massive, massive billion-dollar bailouts to state bureaucracies and corporations and special interest guilds and industry associations and all these little groups looking to steal crumbs out of our pocket. And they know that ultimately they have to be seen doing something for the little person, so they throw some scraps on the ground for us to lap up off the ground. And they just hope that their government education system sticks well for us in these moments, and that we don't realize that printing money out of thin air is not how you generate wealth. It's how you destroy and rob your future and your kids' and grandkids' future. So if you care about your grandkids and you care about your kids, you're going to want to reject everything that Washington has to offer to you in this moment. As enticing as it is to want to just pick a side, government cannot create wealth from a printing press. And we need to take care of our families and not be hoodwinked by these false lies, these false promises. Now, the one thing I did like is Donald Trump's signal that he wanted to suspend the payroll tax. I think they should suspend it indefinitely. And while they're at it, they should suspend the income tax too. And then if he wants to generate revenue, why don't he create some tariffs as replacement? To me, that's a common sense, America first idea. To put the worker and the average person back in the driver's seat of their own life and to get rid of these onerous taxes, how many folks under 40 are going to have to see any dime of Social Security or any value in Medicare when they need it? So why should they be paying into this garbage system? And how many folks under 40 have any real need to give money to the government for their income tax when the government can just print money out of thin air? Or why not do those tariffs that they keep talking about in some circles? Why tax your own people? Why tax your own people who have to bear the burden of all this taxation and give a tax holiday to multinational corporations and foreign governments? So I do like that idea from Donald Trump about suspending the payroll tax, but I think it should be permanent, indefinite suspension, since they've made such a mess out of our economy by overreacting politically so that they would not be blamed. That was the whole thing. Politicians are like renters of power. They don't have, if you're an owner of a property, right, you don't want it to go into bad disrepair. So you want to maintain the value of your house, right? There's a leaky roof, there's a problem with this, there's a problem with the tile, there's a problem over there. You got to fix stuff as it gets older, right? And things are used. And you say, well, if we add this, it'll increase our value of this, right? That's because you have an owner's mentality with your house. Politicians are not owners of the assets that they're using. Politicians are renters of power. They don't get to pass on the assets of the United States government to their heirs, right? Now, if they're a good politician like Barack Obama and these folks, and the Clintons and Bush and all these folks, then they set up a situation in which their family is taken care of because of the friends that they pay for while having power in government. But ultimately, they don't get to inherit the assets, you know. They don't get to pass on or sell, you know. Donald Trump doesn't get to sell Yellowstone and pocket the profits to his personal company and his family and grandkids, right? Now, Barack Obama can use his prestige of political power, of using other people's money to get millions of dollar deals with Netflix, brainwashing the public for corporatism and all the stuff that he likes to push on behalf of big giant corporations and the warfare machine. But he doesn't get to, you know, use the assets and sell, you know, large swaths of federal land for his kids, right? So when you have politicians administering our government, they're renters of power, and they don't care about the long-term value of our wealth and our property. They want to use as much of it as they can by printing trillions of dollars out of thin air, which destroys our purchasing power. And then the idea is, by the time all the chickens come home to roost, somebody else will be sitting in the height of power at that moment, and it'll be like hot potato. When the time runs out, whoever's stuck with the potato as it's being passed around, oh, you're the elected official. When the depression happens, you become the scapegoat. Have a nice day. And that's usually how that little thing works. But if they don't have the long-term value of our property in mind, then it stands to reason that Washington will never, as an institution, have a good stewardship mindset for the vicious amount of our wealth that they use to fund their ideas. No one's ever thinking, wait a second, if we print trillions of dollars like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell want, that at some point, all that extra money is going to ravage our wealth, destroy the work ethic, cripple our savings, and destroy our purchasing power. It's going to collapse the wealth for people that come after us into really, really dire situation. They don't think like that. They just think, wait a second, I've got the power for a time. I'll blame the other party if they're in power when it all falls apart, or I won't be around. That's what some of these folks think. Like John Maynard Keynes says, right? In the end, we're all dead, or whatever his saying was. Not worried about the long-term value of the resources they're extracting. And that's why we have the problem we have. Because no matter who you elect, you can elect all these Republicans and they'll promise you they're going to cut government, but they only want to cut government when they don't have the power, when they're not the majority of power. The moment they're a majority power, they're spending. And I can't believe that we even have to say this. We know this is the fact. We know this is a fact. I can't believe I have to say this. This is like self-evidence, like saying water is wet. When Republicans are out of power, they're going to tell you they're going to cut government. They're going to be worried about the debt. They're going to want to cut this thing and cut that program. The moment they have power, it's just going to magically be forgotten. They're not going to do anything substantial to cut anything because there's too much short-term risk for that, right? There's too much media blowback at the sad song of, look, they've cut the Department of Education in half. Look at all the people getting the pink slip. Oh, my goodness, the sky is falling. Someone has dared to challenge our sacred state and its religious power over our lives. They'll make it the biggest blitzkrieg narrative that you can imagine. And so politicians, they say, nothing, no reason to do anything. Why should I cut government now that we have power? And so they do things like what Paul Ryan and John Boehner and Mitch McConnell always do. They just divvy up loot for their special interests, nibble at a couple regulations that a few special interests want gone, and then blame Democrats. And that's all Democrats do. Democrats spend like imperialist hobgoblins. Trillions and trillions of dollars, just nuts. And they do so because they believe they can kick the can down the road and that at some point when the chickens come home to roost, that they won't be there to take the fall. Or better yet, I guess they would probably hope that if the chickens come home to roost while they're in power, that their sycophantic media, which is like a cheap, low-rent Pravda imitation, because they don't even have to be owned by government, but they do and say everything that supports the establishment view of government, that their media will manipulate the public's perception of their choices so as to make them look like the heroes rather than as the problem that they are. Not them as individuals, but the system that they profit from. So politics itself is the problem. And notice how they always want to get us in. Like, you've got to make a choice. You have to participate in this fight. And it's like, okay, participate in it. That's fine. I'm not going to tell people what to do. But don't be, kidding yourself and believing that, well, this time is different. This time, all those establishment Republicans that get special interest money that gets them into office, this time they're not going to care. They're just going to start cutting government. There's only a handful of people I can think of that actually care about cutting government. One of them is Thomas Massey from Kentucky. That's a congressman that has a wonderful record. Now, he doesn't have any real power there because, again, think about how many districts you have and how much money it takes to win the election. And then how much of that money is given to you by special interests with a specific need. And those specific needs are not, hey, let's have a free market. I can tell you that. The thing, I tell you this all the time, big corporations are not terrified of socialism, democratic socialism, corporate communism. They're terrified of a free market. And that's the one thing that gets vilified in the media, in universities, in pop culture. Oh, free markets, that's greedy. They want to invert reality. They want to invert everything and not let you know that, if we had a free market, we would weed out a lot of the rent seekers and corporations, a lot of the nasty corporations that make money off of feeding us industrial goop that's bad for our health would be weeded out because we'd have a free market in nutritional information, a free market in medicine, a free market in scientific research, and we'd start to find the things that actually work. Because in a free market, you have skin in the game, and if you throw money on a loser project, you'll go out of business. And so you're going to want to throw money towards things that solve problems and things that actually work. Things like the truth about nutrition, things like the truth about medicine and cures for big diseases. And you get none of that when you have the rig market we have today, where we decide everything through a popularity contest ritual. That's not how you're going to solve things. We're going to solve things as families, as neighbors, when we rediscover the power of a market, the power of free human individuals working together to coordinate their actions in a way that wins for everyone. Back in just a moment. David Vernosky here. You probably know that it's good to own some gold. Well, I want to tell you about Monetary Metals, a company started by my frequent guest, Keith Weiner. The conventional way to own gold is to buy coins at high cost and hide them at home, or pay annual fees to store them in a vault, where they just sit there. Monetary Metals is different. With Monetary Metals, you buy gold just above spot and then put it to work so that you're earning interest, paid out not in dollars, but in more ounces of gold. To top it off, there are zero vault fees. So stop having your metal just sit there. Upgrade to Monetary Metals today and start earning interest on it. Upgrade at interestongold.com/David. That's interestongold.com/David.
Got Diacos? My name is synonymous with breast surgery. If you want better breasts, let me, Dr. Dan Diaco, help. I'm a board-certified plastic surgeon with over 20 years of experience and have performed over 5,000 breast procedures. If you want perkier breasts, whether bigger or smaller, let me help. Are you tired of loose or sagging skin in your face, neck, breasts, or tummy? Let me, Dr. Dan Diaco, a board-certified plastic surgeon with 20 years of experience, help you. I use the latest technology such as Face Tight and Body Tight to both tighten skin and remove fat without scars.
It is with sound mind and body that I, James Fredericks III, after fighting with all direct family members for decades, leave my entire fortune of $32 million to the one friend I had in the end, the package delivery guy, Matt Songer.
Woohoo! Yeah! I had a feeling about this. I'm rich. Oh, this cannot be happening.
Actually, it's not happening.
What?
And it never will.
I don't get it.
There aren't even people here. It's just one of those murmuring sound effects.
Seriously?
Listen, if you want to have money in your future, don't rely on luck. Put $10 away each month. Cook once in a while instead of eating out.
Okay.
Pay down your high-interest credit card.
Right.
Small changes today, big bucks tomorrow.
So, no inheritance?
No. Go to feedthepig.org for more free ideas. Feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
And just to be clear, no inheritance, right?
Looking for flights or cheap tickets? Call the low-cost airline travel hotline now for prices so low we can't publish them anywhere. We'll save you money with cheap travel deals on hotels, rental cars, even complete travel packages. Call us first for the absolute cheapest prices on U.S. and international airline tickets and hotels.
800-811-3471. 800-811-3471. That's 800-811-3471.
I'm Christy Yamaguchi. Health officials recommend influenza immunization for people at risk and for those who live with them or care for them. The American Lung Association asks, are you one of the faces of influenza? See your healthcare provider about getting vaccinated.
A Neighbor's Choice returns. David Gronowski, your host here. You can email me hello@aneighborschoice.com if you have a comment or something you'd like to share. I'd love to hear from every one of you. hello@aneighborschoice.com. Happy to see, I was looking at again the Nielsen ratings And they show anywhere from 40 to 51% of the audience listening is between the ages of 25 and 35. I think that's fantastic. I think that's proof that truth is powerful and that it's going to win the next generation if we just get out there and let it loose. And that's what we're doing. Not pulling any punches and uncovering the truth in the headlines around us today. And I think the issue with this lie of politics, these renters of political power that are in D.C., renting power, they don't care about the long-term value of our property and long-term value of our country's wealth, long-term value of our education, fitness, nutrition, health, all these things. They care about a transactional relationship. That transactional relationship is with bureaucracies that are entrenched. That transaction is with lobbying organizations. It's with the media. It's with the PR that comes with the media. It's with giant corporations and unions that make a killing off of keeping us unfree. If we have our freedom, so much of these parasitical corporations and greedy folks with bad ideas would be weeded out of the marketplace because we'd have our freedom back. Therefore, they wouldn't be able to have this zero-sum game. What I call corporate communism, corporate decadent banquets for a few, communist scraps thrown on the ground for the rest of us. And ultimately, they don't want us to know the truth, that wealth comes from toil, from work. And that innovation makes that wealth easier, right? If we can have, for example, let's just imagine for a moment that we can have ocean water power our cars and our homes. Just imagine that. Visualize that with me. With low energy nuclear reactions, it's very safe, no radiation emissions, not high, huge temperature needed, very low temperature, providing warm water, electricity for your home, providing your car with clean energy with no pollution, right? What does that do? That's called real wealth generation, okay? That means you don't have to work as much to keep, for example, your car. How much do you put every month, every week, every month, every year? How much do you toil in your labor to keep your car moving, right? How much of your life on this earth is spent just to keep your car able to move? Now, how much less labor would you have to put into keeping your car moving if it could be powered by an almost unlimited resource like water, right? I mean, fully powered by a nuclear type energy with water. Whatever. It doesn't have to be that. It could be 24/7 solar panels harvesting energy for your car. So much of these things could be cheaper than you could possibly imagine if we could get these onerous regulations that are meant to prop up the price of these cars and force us to have to be in debt to be able to afford them. In a true free society, we could be able to get these prices down dramatically so that you wouldn't have to be in debt to afford a nice new car. And if we had the kind of revolutions in energy that I think are possible, that I think are very real, it would create real wealth. Creating money out of thin air like government does doesn't create real wealth. Figuring out through perspiration, through work, through being treated like a pariah, that's what real worth. I mean, that's where the real value, that's where real wealth is going to be generated. Let's go to our phones real quick. We're almost out of time. Let's see if we can get our caller in. We have Benjamin from Maine calling. How you doing, Ben? You got to turn your radio down, Ben. Can you hear me now?
Hello?
Yeah, Ben, you're on air with a Neighbor's Choice. What's your question?
Oh, thank you so much. Got it. Okay, yeah. Cool, thank you. So I really appreciate you talking. I'm a Girardian fan myself. I've been into him for about a year or so, and I had a quick question for you. You were talking about how you'd like all the truth to be revealed and to be revealed now.
Okay, sure.
And to me, that always that seems like a tricky thing, because my question is, let's say everybody sort of learns that truth and stops scapegoating, and we achieve that revolutionary freedom. We create all this wealth. Well, like then what? I don't know. I feel like if I met another person who sort of knew that truth, and if everybody else knew it, I guess we just look at each other and then go get a bite to eat or go home. What do we do at home? What is there to do once that truth is revealed and everybody's sort of on the same page? Aside from just, I don't know, getting more food to more people, but what is there a stopping point? Is there a limit that we're working towards? Is that it? Is there a certain point when we're back to paralysis? We fixed it all?
Well, think about the opposite of that. If we just stop working and stop producing, stop creating things, right? If we didn't create wealth, then we'd be back to a subsistence level pretty soon. If you get dropped off in the forest, they have these shows that show, being out there living off of subsistence in the forest. Look, that's not a very comfortable life. That's not a comfortable life for kids. It's not a comfortable life for people who have ailments, people who are old. It may be a comfortable life for a young person with a lot of ingenuity and fitness to be able to survive and be able to create food and understand which animals to hunt and which vegetation are safe to consume. But the level of suffering that's going to be a part of everyday life, living in subsistence again, without the protection of society, without the protection of a home, without the protection of civilized order, and not having a kind of law of the jungle land where whoever is stronger can consume the life of another. All those things were built into the things that we've enjoyed because of things like Christianity, providing us protection from people just marauding and pillaging us. So I think the question is, what's the point of life if we're not going to do something better? What's the point of living in this life if we're not going to try to make a great piece of work, whether that's a piece of art, whether that's plumbing, whether that's being a teacher, whatever it is, do something excellent to serve somebody else. That's what we're here to do. I don't know what your worldview is, Ben, but I'm of the belief that, Jesus is in control of history, that Jesus is guiding history to a trajectory, and that trajectory is driven by loving your neighbor as yourself, not by just giving up and having an Epicurean just live for the moment mindset, but actually by serving your neighbor, whatever way possible, whether you're a chemist, whether you're a carpenter, whether you're a football player, whatever you want to do, serve your neighbor in the way that most helps and glorifies the whole purpose, which is loving our neighbor as we love our Creator. So that's what I'm here for. That's what I want to do. And I think that's a very rewarding journey as we unpack that. Great question. I'm out of time, folks. Email me, hello@aneighborschoice.com. That's hello@aneighborschoice.com. Godspeed.